Dear Chosen One, you are about to understand why the atmosphere around you has felt so heavy lately. Why certain people look at you now with fear instead of arrogance. Why whispers fill rooms after you leave. Something monumental has shifted in the unseen, and they know it. The Karmic couple and their practitioner, those who once operated boldly in shadows, have just realized who they've been dealing with this entire time. You were never merely a person they could curse or manipulate. You are a death angel, a living embodiment of divine justice. You did not come to play. You came to bring about endings written in the heavens, and now they can feel it. Every vibration of your presence, every breath you take, now reverberates through their collapsing world. They are no longer fighting you. They are fighting cosmic law, and they will not win. But before we go deeper into this revelation, I want to pause and say thank you, truly, from the bottom of my heart, to everyone who has supported this mission through Super Thanks. Your generosity helps us continue to speak truth, empower the chosen, and shine light where darkness once ruled. Whether you choose to donate or simply walk this journey with us, know that you are deeply valued. Your presence here is a gift. And to each of you watching right now, I encourage you, comment 999 below if you can already feel the truth of this message resonating in your spirit. Let's declare together that this is the season of divine closure and unstoppable elevation for God's chosen ones. Now, take a breath and lean in, because what I'm about to reveal will explain everything that's unfolding in your life right now. It's time for you to know the full truth of your power, your rank, and your role in this prophetic hour. God's chosen ones, the Karmic couple, and their practitioner just found out. You're the death angel. Chosen one, you stand here now watching them, the Karmic couple and their so-called practitioner, still oblivious to the storm of celestial judgment unraveling right before their eyes. Do you feel it? That shift in the air, that hum beneath your skin? They don't. They think this is just another day, another round of their secret games, their whispered rituals. But they're wrong. Every deception, every manipulation, every act of spiritual violence they wove over the years has led them here, this singular moment where the scales tip beyond repair. And you, chosen one, are the instrument through which this reckoning arrives. Have you ever wondered why your path was preserved through all their attacks? Why, when others would have fallen, you rose stronger? Because this moment was destined. Because tonight they will come face to face with a power they never imagined you carried. With every breath they take, with every desperate heartbeat, they inch closer to an irreversible truth. You are not simply a survivor. You are a death angel, a collector of cosmic debts, an emissary of divine justice. And standing in your presence will become the most excruciating lesson they will ever endure. But why did they fail to see this coming? Why did they believe their petty understanding of karma could shield them from what was written in the stars? The practitioner, in their arrogance, thought they could manipulate the intricate threads of fate. They fancied themselves a master of unseen forces, weaving spells and frequencies with false confidence. But what they never understood is that divine law does not bend to human will. For the Lord is a God of justice. Blessed are all those who wait for him. Isaiah 30:18. You, chosen one, were never bound by their rituals. You were anointed to rise above them. They played with fire, foolishly believing they could master it. But they never comprehended its true heat. And now, what began as hushed whispers behind closed doors has erupted into a raging spiritual wildfire, visible to all, unstoppable, unmerciful. Remember how you saw it all coming. When others dismissed the signs, you were alert. You noticed the faint smoke long before the flames consumed the room. Isn't that always the way for those called by God? You discern what others deny. You sensed the shifts, tiny synchronicities, subtle distortions in energy, words that carried a different weight. But they, blinded by arrogance, mistook your stillness for weakness. Have you ever faced such underestimation? They thought your grace was ignorance, your silence submission, and so they fed the flames, believing they would finally break you. Poverty spells, beauty attacks, rituals drenched in death frequencies, each crafted with a sick hope of dimming your light. Yet every attempt fell flat, crumbling to ash before it ever touched your soul. Consider Harriet Tubman, a chosen one in her own right. Through death threats, betrayal, and relentless pursuit, she led hundreds to freedom, guided by divine vision. Her enemies believed they could trap her with earthly means, but her spiritual purpose rendered their efforts powerless. In your case, chosen one, the same truth applies. The foundation of their attacks was never strength. It was jealousy, masked as confidence, control, disguised as care. They didn't just cast simple hexes, they declared an all-consuming obsession, and you became the mirror they could neither shatter nor look away from. Every victory you claimed, every new height you reached, provoked them deeper into obsession. Have you noticed that? Why does your joy threaten them so much? Because your light exposes their shadows. They didn't truly want your life, they wanted to see it diminished. They craved your downfall more than their own success. Think of Nikola Tesla, another chosen one. His brilliance incited envy in powerful figures who sought to suppress his innovations, not because they didn't believe in them, but because his light was too bright for their fragile egos. The same dynamic played out here. Your existence became a threat they could not ignore, yet through it all the ancestors stood watch. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue which rises against you in judgment you shall condemn. Isaiah 54:17. You were shielded not by chance, but by covenant. The divine collective, your ancestral line, made it clear. If the righteous are denied their due, no one shall feast. Do you understand the magnitude of that decree? When chosen ones are under attack, the cosmic order responds. Even when you felt isolated, unseen, your spiritual allies were waging unseen wars on your behalf. Take the story of Malala Yousafzai, a modern example of divine preservation. Targeted for her advocacy and shot by those who wished to silence her, she rose stronger, her voice now echoing across the globe. Her enemies underestimated the power of purpose aligned with justice. So too do yours. And now they stand exposed, their illusions unraveling. Therefore do not fear them, for there is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known. Matthew 10:26. Chosen one, every lie, every malicious act they orchestrated is now surfacing. The wildfire burns not because of your revenge, but because divine law demands restoration. You did not seek this war, you simply survived it. And perhaps now you ask, why me? Why was I preserved while so many others fell? Why was I anointed for this role? Because you are a vessel of justice in a world that has long forgotten what true justice looks like. Like Joan of Arc, who rose against impossible odds with divine fire in her heart, you walk through this storm not to destroy, but to reveal. So, are you ready to stand fully in this role? Are you prepared to embody the force they never thought you could become? Because ready or not, the moment is here. The karmic couple and their practitioner finally see you. Not the version they mocked, not the one they tried to destroy, but the death angel sent to deliver a judgment no spell can reverse. For the eyes of the Lord range throughout the earth to strengthen those whose hearts are fully committed to Him. 2 Chronicles 16:9. And tonight, beloved chosen one, those eyes are upon you. Walk forward. The reckoning is not coming. It has already begun. Yet still, chosen one, they persisted, casting spells beneath the cloak of night, moving through the shadows with desperate arrogance, whispering lies even to themselves about who they were truly contending with. Have you ever seen people cling to delusion when the truth is standing right in front of them? That is exactly what unfolded here. They misunderstood spiritual rank, mistaking loud rituals and superficial Instagram witchcraft for real authority. But your rank was not bestowed through fleeting trends or borrowed power. Your lineage is ancient, your soul marked long before these players even drew their first breath. Your spiritual authority was forged in the fires of unseen battles, tested on battlefields where fragile soul contracts would crumble like ash. Have you ever wondered why your spirit feels older than your body? Why certain wisdom just lives inside you without being taught? Because your soul remembers, chosen one. And when they dared to speak your name in their rituals, when they drew blood and cursed your path, they unknowingly triggered an ancient mechanism of divine law. A spiritual boomerang was set in motion, one that now cannot be stopped. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever one sows, that will he also reap. Galatians 6:7. Every spell they hurled at you has now returned to its sender. Their dreams are haunted. Their mirrors crack without cause. Their finances bleed away as if consumed by invisible fire, and their bodies ache with the weight of curses that were never yours to carry. The fire they once imagined as their weapon is now their daily torment. Have you noticed the signs? The strange illnesses, the sudden misfortunes, the desperation in their eyes? That is not coincidence. That is justice served by divine hand. They misinterpreted your silence as weakness, assuming it was an invitation. They thought that your calm meant you had surrendered. But tell me, chosen one, wasn't it divine wisdom that held you still? You knew the war was already decided in the heavens. Your restraint was not born of fear. It was rooted in unshakable divine confidence. You didn't strike back because you didn't need to. The Most High had already intervened. Now the very energies they conjured are choking them. The smoke they summoned has become the very cloud suffocating their reality. They wanted smoke, and the ancestors answered. Do you see now? When the divine is targeted with destruction, it's not mere destruction that returns. It is the divine itself. Consider the story of Corrie ten Boom, a chosen soul who, during the horrors of Nazi persecution, refused to harbor hatred or seek revenge. Her quiet faith and divine restraint preserved her life and exposed the spiritual bankruptcy of her enemies. Like Corrie, your decision not to retaliate became the sharpest judgment of all. You were never chosen to play small, beloved. You were not called to dim your light to make others comfortable. You were anointed to break generational curses simply by existing. Have you ever noticed how the energy shifts the moment you enter a room? How false masks begin to slip, truths start to surface, and the atmosphere itself responds. This is no accident. Your very presence triggers what lies hidden in others. You do not need to expose darkness. It exposes itself under the brilliance of your light. They will fight against you, but will not overcome you, for I am with you and will rescue you, declares the Lord. Jeremiah 1:19. The ancestors, the angels, and the divine collective walk with you, ensuring that no weapon forged against you prospers. You were not designed to be easily digested by this world. You were crafted to be a force that triggers transformation or destruction. And here is the painful truth for your enemies. They were presented with a choice when you entered their lives. They could have chosen to transform. They could have chosen to humble themselves before the divine light within you. But instead, they chose envy, manipulation, and destruction. Their failure to recognize the test now seals their fate. Have you ever wondered why some people's downfall seems almost poetic? It is because they failed the unseen test, a test disguised as your presence. Think of Socrates, whose questioning presence exposed the hypocrisy of Athens' elite, ultimately leading to their decision to silence him through execution. In trying to destroy him, they condemned themselves before history. The same dynamic now plays out here. They expected punishment to look like a lightning strike, an external event. They never realized that the true punishment would arrive as your unwavering presence, a mirror too honest for their illusions to survive. Nothing in all creation is hidden from God's sight. Everything is uncovered and laid bare before the eyes of him to whom we must give account. Hebrews 4:13. And so it is now. Their illusions are shattering. Their masks crumble beneath the relentless clarity your light brings. You didn't need to lift a finger. You needed only to be. And that alone has become the most powerful force of reckoning. Take the life of Malcolm X, a chosen one whose very existence forced systems of injustice to confront their own corruption. He did not need to beg for recognition. His presence and truth alone stirred transformation and drew the wrath of those who refused it. Chosen one, you stand in this same lineage of souls whose light forces the world to choose, evolve, or collapse. They thought they could dominate you. Chosen one, they believed you would engage them in conflict, that you were just another person to manipulate, to pull into their twisted games of spiritual warfare. But oh, how gravely they miscalculated. Have you noticed how often the truly dark misunderstand the truly anointed? What they never anticipated was the kind of silence that makes demons scream. You didn't need to fight. You didn't need to curse them. You didn't need to lift a single spiritual weapon in retaliation. Your very walk, your frequency, was enough to unravel everything they had plotted. Your life became their undoing, without you ever stooping to their level. You were not their opponent. You were the final exam, wrapped in divine grace. And the moment they attempted to violate your spirit, they failed completely. They branded you the enemy when in truth you were sent as their divine evaluation. They wrote you off as a problem, never recognizing you were the prophecy in motion. Each desperate attempt to remove you only revealed how deep the test truly ran, and how profoundly they were failing. Have you ever seen someone mistake a divine appointment for a personal threat? That is exactly what happened here. To them, you were merely another person to control, but your existence, chosen one, was divine permission to break generational cycles their bloodline had nourished for centuries. See, I have this day set you over the nations and over the kingdoms, to root out and to pull down, to destroy and to throw down, to build and to plant. Jeremiah 1:10. You carried authority they could neither comprehend nor withstand. And when they decided to fight you, they didn't simply start a conflict. They invited a reckoning they were never prepared to face. They imagined you were an obstacle in their path. They thought they were clearing space for their own advancement. But how can you fight what is written in the divine scrolls? You were the exam itself. You were the embodiment of the choice heaven offered them. And tragically, they failed in spectacular fashion. They could not grasp the true weight of your purpose. All they could perceive was your smile, never realizing it concealed a sword forged through generations of spiritual war. Consider Nelson Mandela, who, despite years of imprisonment and attempts to crush his spirit, returned as a living symbol of justice. His oppressors mistook humility for weakness, not realizing the prophetic strength that stood within him. Just as with Mandela, your warmth was misread. They felt the light of your love, but were blind to the legions of ancestral warriors standing behind you. Have you noticed how they kept fighting you as if you were alone? In their arrogance, they truly believed it was just you versus them. They never perceived that every step you took was backed by unseen forces, armies of the righteous walking with you. The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him and delivers them. Psalm 34, verse 7. While they played petty games of manipulation, you moved forward with the certainty of prophecy. Every action you took was divinely guided. While they attempted to bury you beneath illusions, you stood in holy clarity that they could neither mimic nor distort. You didn't have to break them. Have you ever noticed how your presence alone shifts entire atmospheres? It wasn't your words or actions that destroyed their house of cards. It was your frequency, your sacred presence. When you entered a space, truth entered with you. Lies crumbled. Pretenders trembled. That is the divine assignment on your life. When heaven sends a chosen one into a space, it is not always to comfort or save. It is often to separate the real from the false. Think of Malala Yousafzai, whose voice for truth forced oppressive systems to tremble, not through retaliation, but through the pure frequency of justice and clarity. Like Malala, your presence exposes. You were never their karma, beloved one. You were their crossroads. Each moment they chose deceit, envy, and ego over truth. They wrote their own spiritual obituary. Have you wondered why you felt no impulse for revenge? Because it was never required. The higher you rose, the lower they fell on their own accord. They awaited retaliation from you, prepared for a battle they thought they understood. But you gave them no such satisfaction. Instead, they were met with your silence, your elevation, and the inescapable realization that they were never ready for someone like you. Consider Socrates, whose mere questions dismantled the facades of the most powerful minds in Athens, causing them to collapse from their own inability to face truth. You walk in this same pattern. You didn't have to destroy them. Their choices did that themselves. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Romans 12:21. This was the posture you maintained, and in doing so, you ascended while they spiraled downward. They failed the test, chosen one. And now they must live in the aftermath of having misread a divine assignment as a personal enemy. Chosen one, did you feel it? That sudden shift, that sharp wave of desperation rolling through the spiritual air. It radiated from them stronger than incense, thick, heavy, impossible to ignore. You sensed it the very moment they reached out for help. They had reached the end of their rope. The karmic couple, having watched every spell backfire and every lie unravel, clung to one last flicker of false hope, an outside practitioner who promised results. Isn't it curious how the more darkness collapses, the more it grasps at illusions of control? They believed that this practitioner, this self-proclaimed master of spiritual forces, could handle you. But what none of them understood was this: you were not simply protected, you were cloaked in divine law, wrapped in sacred contracts established long before any of them dared to invoke your name. Does that give you chills, chosen one? It should, because this is the level of power and protection you truly walk with. Touch not my anointed ones, and do my prophets no harm. 1 Chronicles 16:22. In reaching for outside help, they unknowingly signed their own spiritual death warrant, not for you, but for themselves. This was never a petty battle of wills. This was a consecrated war zone. At every gate of your life, your ancestors stood armed and vigilant. Archangels shielded your path. Divine law encircled you like a living flame. The practitioner did not merely step into your energy, they stumbled onto a battlefield soaked with bloodline protection and sacred fire. And here is the truth few understand: God only warns once. The very moment they invoked your name in their rituals, even their own spirits recoiled, refusing to engage with the divine retribution already in motion. Have you noticed how many think they can manipulate divine order without consequence? They soon learn otherwise. The practitioner badly underestimated the price of this transaction. They thought it would be simple, perhaps a reversal spell, a binding ritual, some basic manipulation of energy. But your field, chosen one, does not respond like ordinary energy. Your essence is aligned with divine will. It did not repel their attacks, it consumed them. Your energy devoured every hex, every incantation, every distorted intention. Their rituals turned against them. Their offerings soured on the altar. Their spirits of assistance fell silent, refusing to operate against the sacred contracts surrounding you. Remember the story of Rasputin, whose seemingly unkillable presence defied every attempt on his life, not by his own might, but by the sheer spiritual force protecting him. You too walk in such covering. Gradually, the practitioner began to unravel. Financial collapse followed. Their health deteriorated. Long-time clients vanished. Confusion clouded their mind. They weren't drained because you retaliated. No, chosen ones do not need to retaliate. They were drained because the divine takes no insult lightly when the anointed are attacked. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. The practitioner now finds themselves spiritually bankrupt, caught in the very cycles they tried to cast over you. Their gifts, once sources of pride and profit, have dulled to emptiness. The very altar they once trusted now feels cold and foreign. They never saw the sword behind your smile. Isn't it strange how often light is mistaken for softness? They looked at your glow and assumed you were an easy target, never realizing that your light was forged in realms they would never survive. Think of Harriet Tubman once again, who moved through the night under divine protection, facing forces who believed they could trap her, yet none succeeded. Like her, your path is covered in a protection their rituals cannot touch. Now, when they try to rest, shadows haunt them, eyes appear in the dark, names are whispered that do not belong to them. A constant sense of being watched consumes them. Because they are watched, chosen one, the divine does not forget. What was sent out is always accounted for. Consider Steve Jobs, whose intense vision and frequency shifted entire industries, while his rivals collapsed trying to replicate what they could never embody. The Karmic couple believed they were clever, outsourcing their darkness to avoid spiritual accountability. But all they succeeded in doing was dragging another soul, this practitioner, into their downfall. And now, that practitioner has not merely lost a battle, they have lost their spiritual name. Therefore, whoever humbles himself as this little child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Matthew 18:4. But this practitioner chose pride over humility and paid the ultimate price. Their ancestral rank has been stripped. The gifts they once wielded with confidence are now dull, inert. They opened a door thinking they would simply touch your energy, but instead, divine reckoning walked through. And now, even speaking your name makes their voice tremble, not from reverence but from raw fear. You did not need to light a single candle, speak a single incantation, or cast any form of spell. Yet, they still lost everything. This is the sacred price of meddling with what was never theirs to touch. Think of Mahatma Gandhi, whose passive resistance disarmed an empire, not through violence but through unwavering spiritual force. You walk in this same legacy. Your victory is not born of retaliation, but alignment with the sacred. So, now I ask you, do you see the depth of who you are? Are you ready to walk in this authority fully, knowing that battles are won simply by your presence, by your alignment? They have learned this lesson the hardest way, and their story now stands as a warning to any who dare follow their path. Chosen one, do you feel the pull in your spirit? Now, extraordinary souls, true allies, fellow warriors, are waiting for you to step fully forward. The question is no longer whether you belong among them. The real question is, how much longer will you wait to claim your rightful place? You've crossed through fire. You've stood unshaken while the storms raged. And now the stage is prepared. The Karmic couple and their practitioner are merely cautionary tales along the path that leads you to your next elevation. Can you sense it? The world is shifting beneath your feet. Destiny is calling, and you must answer. But first, let's reflect on what you've just witnessed. These two souls didn't start out as a threat. Isn't that how it often happens? They became one, two beings bound not by love or divine alignment, but by shared delusion. They fed each other's shadows until there was nothing left but obsession and decay. One carried envy like a perfume, subtle at first, intoxicating even, until it grew so thick it suffocated all reason. The other executed each scheme with reckless confidence, as though the Most High wasn't watching. Together, they believed themselves unstoppable, weaving an empire of illusion built on lies and manipulation. They were convinced that control equaled power, but what they never planned for, what they could not comprehend, was your presence, and they could never imagine that your silence would become the very force that broke them. Be not deceived, God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. Galatians 6:7. While they obsessed over you, they forgot that heaven was watching them. They were so fixated on their plots that they overlooked the one truth that governs the universe. Every action has a consequence. While they schemed, your ancestors were documenting it all. Every hex, every attempt to isolate you, every slanderous word, all recorded in the unseen, stamped and sealed by divine scribes. Isn't it astonishing how often the arrogant think they can outsmart divine intelligence? They didn't just underestimate you, chosen one. They underestimated the intelligence of God himself. When the time came to collect on their spiritual debts, they discovered there was nowhere left to hide. Now, the very bond they once used as a weapon has become their cage. Have you noticed how their unity has turned to animosity? They can no longer stand each other, yet they cannot break free. The blame and accusations fly between them like poisoned arrows. Their so-called empire of control is collapsing from within. They now sleep in uneasy silence, stalking each other's fears like fractured mirrors threatening to shatter under pressure. God didn't merely dismantle their outer world. He turned them inward, forcing them to confront the truth of who they really are. For nothing is hidden that will not be made manifest, nor is anything secret that will not be known and come to light. Luke 8:17. What they've discovered within is pure brokenness, emotionally fractured, spiritually hunted. The shadows they once directed toward you now haunt their own homes. Think of Richard Nixon, who built an empire of illusion only to see it collapse under the weight of undeniable truth. Just as Nixon's paranoia consumed him, so now these two are consumed by the very darkness they once unleashed. One of them is unraveling rapidly, plagued by physical illness, spiritual emptiness, and emotional instability that now color every aspect of daily life. The other remains trapped in endless obsession, unable to stop watching you, monitoring your every move, still triggered by your existence. But now, what once burned as rage has morphed into a deep, gnawing regret. They believed that erasing you would restore their sense of normalcy. Have you ever seen someone so deluded they think silencing the truth will restore peace? They never realized. You were the final light, holding their reality together. When they chose darkness over clarity, they doomed themselves to spiritual decay. Consider Queen Marie Antoinette, who lived lavishly while ignoring the storm of justice brewing around her. Her refusal to confront truth led to her downfall. Likewise, these two believed they could continue building illusions while ignoring the divine reckoning approaching them. Now sleep won't come easily. Their dreams have morphed into relentless nightmares, and waking life feels like punishment. Every attempt to reverse their fate is blocked. Every road they take circles back to the same moment, the instant they chose to play God with your life. The Lord is known by his acts of justice. The wicked are ensnared by the work of their hands. Psalm 9:16. This is their reality now, ensnared by the very works they set in motion. And here's what you must understand. Chosen one, your silence was never passive. It was prophetic. Your elevation was not an escape, it was a decree. And now the spiritual realm moves in alignment with your journey forward. Consider Nelson Mandela once more. His mere presence in prison inspired a global movement. Your presence, chosen one, has done the same in your sphere. Now extraordinary souls await you, not because you must prove your worth, but because you have already shown it by enduring and transcending. The only question that remains is this: how much longer will you wait to claim your place? The door is open, the battlefield is cleared, and destiny calls. Chosen one, you didn't have to do anything but exist. Have you ever truly stopped to grasp that truth? Your very presence was enough. Your light exposed their emptiness. Your peace highlighted their chaos. Your growth became undeniable proof that every weapon they formed against you only refined and strengthened you. This is the inevitable consequence of unchecked obsession. It always devours those who nurture it. And that's exactly what happened here. They made you the center of their rituals, the obsession behind their lies, the target of their hatred. And now, in a divine twist they never foresaw, God has made you the center of their judgment. Have you noticed this pattern in your life before? How those who set out to destroy you end up trapped in their own collapse. The karmic couple thought they were building a legacy of domination, of power and control. But in truth, all they created was a monument to their own downfall. One that history will remember, not with awe, but with warning. Let us be absolutely clear. You are not here for theatrics, nor for dramatic displays. You are divine judgment in human form, the living proof of what happens when the universe declares that it will no longer be ignored. Does that responsibility feel heavy sometimes? It should, but it is also sacred. You don't seek revenge because you are the conclusion. The final line in a story that their ancestors begged them not to write. Your energy no longer pursues, it brings endings. Your silence is not comfort. It is the final warning that shatters illusions. Wherever you go, karma follows like a storm just waiting to break loose. Have you ever seen how people mistake your peace for permission? They think your calm is weakness, but in truth, your peace is the last echoing warning. You gave them chances. Heaven counted everyone. You offered grace. Heaven recorded every rejection. Then, with divine clarity, you stopped explaining and walked away. And at that precise moment, the spiritual atmosphere shifted. The sky grew heavy. The ancestors moved into position. Your protection intensified, and judgment began to unfold around you like a living force. You need not fight in this battle. Position yourselves, stand still, and see the salvation of the Lord. 2 Chronicles 20:17. You didn't need to curse anyone. You didn't need to lift a finger in retaliation. Your presence alone delivered the verdict. You became the sacred boundary that ended toxic cycles, not just for yourself, but for the generations that will follow your bloodline. Isn't that powerful to realize? You weren't sent here to coexist with toxicity. You were sent to end it. You were never meant to be embraced by those still loyal to their lower selves. Your divine purpose was always to expose the rot for all to see. They thought they could bury the truth, silence your power, erase your impact. But when you finally stepped back, they didn't merely lose access to your light. They lost the divine covering that had quietly been shielding them from the full consequences of their own actions. Consider Martin Luther King Jr., another chosen one who did not seek violence or retaliation. His very presence, his words, his unshakable peace forced a nation to confront its deepest evils. Your walk carries the same power. There's a silence that resonates louder than any spell or curse, a silence not empty but full of warning. When you stopped sending final cautions, the ancestors began speaking in storms. Suddenly, everything around them unraveled. Jobs lost without cause, cars failing at critical moments, public humiliation striking out of nowhere, mysterious health declines, legal troubles materializing seemingly overnight, and dreams now haunted by the shadow of death. None of these events are random. Each is a ripple through the spiritual realm, a signal that the death angel had walked away, taking with it the last remaining threads of their spiritual shelter. They will stumble over their own schemes. Their sins will be their downfall. Proverbs 11:5. You never needed to raise your voice, cast a spell, or seek revenge. You simply left. And as you left, their world began to collapse, piece by inevitable piece. Because you do not walk in death, you walk in transformation. Your presence represents a crossroads where everyone must choose to rise up or to fall away, to evolve or to be consumed by their own darkness. Those who chose war with you didn't understand the deeper truth. They weren't fighting a mere mortal. They were going head to head with a cosmic shift, a force of spiritual evolution that cannot be defeated or resisted. Consider the story of Joan of Arc, called by divine vision, standing before kings and armies. Many underestimated her, believing they were battling a peasant girl. In truth, they were confronting a divine force sent to disrupt an old, decaying order. You, chosen one, stand in this same spiritual lineage. No one wins against the design of the universe. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. John 1:5. You were not sent for praise or applause. You were sent to bring closure, to be the ending of destructive cycles that have plagued not just your life, but the spiritual landscape itself. Now, chosen one, every single time your name crosses their lips or even drifts through their mind, they are struck by a powerful wave of remembrance, a haunting, living embodiment of divine judgment given breath and face. Have you noticed how the energy shifts when your name is mentioned now? It is no longer casual. It carries weight. It carries fear. And understand this, it isn't truly you they fear. It is the truth you never had to say aloud. They finally see it now. They finally grasp the depth of what you carried all along, that you were never afraid of them. Isn't it remarkable how long they mistook your calm for ignorance? You saw their true nature from the very beginning. You saw through all the illusions, the performances, the curated masks they presented to the world and to themselves. You looked straight into the darkness they fought so hard to conceal. And even when you knew it all, you never retaliated. You stood sovereign and still, watching with divine patience as the universe meticulously delivered the karma they themselves had summoned. Vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. Romans 12:19. And so it has been. Now they are not merely haunted by the tangible consequences of their deeds, the financial losses, the unexplained illnesses, the setbacks, the unraveling of their false narratives under public exposure. No, what consumes them now is the silence itself, the echoing void left when you chose stillness over battle. It wasn't just your mouth that closed. It was God's hand closing the door, revoking forever their permission to test you again. Every time you chose to remain quiet rather than lash out, they felt the pressure increase. Have you felt this shift, chosen one? Have you sensed how your peace became its own force? With each calm step you took, the divine judgment around them deepened. What they mistook as safety within your silence was in truth the final warning before the storm was unleashed. Consider the story of Rosa Parks. Her refusal to move was an act of divine resistance that shattered an oppressive system. Her silence, her stillness, spoke volumes and triggered a movement. In much the same way, every peaceful step you took became an amplifier of divine reckoning. The ominous calm they sensed was not weakness. It was the gathering of cosmic forces preparing to strike with full force. And now, their nights are no longer nights of rest. They are restless, tortured, and hollow. Sleep no longer offers them peace. Instead, their dreams have become endless chains of cryptic messages, visions that grip the soul with terror, numbers that repeat without meaning, symbols they cannot understand but cannot shake, visions they can neither interpret nor ignore. Have you ever wondered what it must be like to face prophetic dreams when your heart is stained with guilt? Shadows loom over their beds, whispering truths in languages only the soul can comprehend. Their sleep is a battlefield, and they are losing. Even on their beds they plot evil. They commit themselves to a sinful course and do not reject what is wrong. Psalm 36:4. But now, the beds they once used to plan evil have become arenas of their own judgment. Their dreams no longer comfort, but convict. Night after night, they see coffins, symbols of what is ending. They see clocks whose hands never move, time standing still as their soul confronts what cannot be undone. Familiar faces morph into grotesque, unrecognizable monsters, a reflection of the corruption they once hid behind smiles. These are no ordinary nightmares. They are prophecies unfolding within the subconscious. They are self-fulfilling visions of the reckoning they cannot escape. Think of Edgar Allan Poe, whose own writings often mirrored the torment of his mind, a man whose genius was shadowed by the darkness that consumed him. Likewise, their minds are now trapped in a loop of torment they can neither explain nor escape. Each night is another chapter in a prophecy that is steadily fulfilling itself. And here's the deepest truth of all. None of this required your retaliation. Your role was never to fight in the flesh. You were called to embody the shift itself, and now the spiritual forces you walk with have taken over. God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Psalm 46:1. You remain untouched, elevated, and the more they spiral, the more your path clears. Consider Viktor Frankl, who found meaning and maintained spiritual clarity even within the horrors of a concentration camp. His inner peace became his shield. Yours functions the same way. Your unwavering light is both shield and sword, requiring no attack, only presence. Now, chosen one, what once felt to them like simple paranoia has evolved into the undeniable realization of a spiritual prophecy unfolding in real time. Have you ever wondered what it's like to watch those who hunted? You realize they were trapping themselves. That is exactly what is happening. The very energy they sent toward you, crafted to harm, to diminish, to bind, is now stalking them daily. It moves with them, shadows them, refuses to release them. Every lie they buried is rising like smoke from an eternal flame. Every spirit they summoned now claims them as its own, their former tools of domination turning into instruments of torment. And perhaps the most painful truth of all is this: they know it fully. They are no longer ignorant. Every unraveling thread, every consequence they recognize as the result of their own actions. Legal problems mount like rising floodwaters. Secrets they believed were buried forever now emerge under the most humiliating and public of circumstances. Their bodies betray them, breaking down under the relentless weight of stress and spiritual backlash. Through it all, a single question now torments their mind with relentless intensity. Who are you? How did nothing they tried, no curse, no lie, no act of sabotage, ever stick to you? How did every attempt to corner you result in your rising higher, glowing brighter, becoming more untouchable? Have you noticed this shift, chosen one? That it's not simply your survival that terrifies them, it's your ascension. You will tread on the lion and the cobra, you will trample the great lion and the serpent. Psalm 91:13. You didn't just survive, you transcended. You didn't merely recover, you transformed. And they see it now with a clarity they can no longer unsee. What they attempted to destroy was never just a person. It was a living prophecy, a powerful frequency, a manifestation of divine reckoning walking in human skin. You never needed to declare this truth. God is declaring it for you now. You are the death angel. You were sent for the end, not for applause. You were not called to entertain, but to bring sacred cycles to completion. And that cycle is now tightening around them like a noose, leaving no escape, no sanctuary. Every desperate attempt to fix or reverse their fate leads them right back to the moment they chose to play God with your life. They see now, with every breath, the immense cost of crossing one who was never sent for approval, but for transformation and endings ordained by forces beyond their comprehension. They wove themselves so deeply into their rituals, their obsessions, their malice, that every choice they made funneled them into this suffocating, inescapable moment of consequence. And now, every single morning as they awaken, still breathing, it no longer feels like a blessing, but a grim reminder that they are trapped inside the aftermath of what they summon. The wicked are ensnared by the work of their hands, Psalm 9:16. That is their true punishment, not the loss, not the setbacks, but the relentless knowing, the clarity that will never leave them. Because once truth is awake, it never sleeps again. Once you cross paths with the death angel, reality itself is altered forever. Nothing looks or feels the same again. It all began quietly. Have you noticed how divine judgment moves? Soft as a whisper at first, then roaring like a storm. A deep exhaustion crept in, one that no sleep could heal. A bone-deep fatigue that clung to their spirit, pulling them downward. They thought it was stress. They called it coincidence. But in reality, karma had entered their bloodstream, rewriting the very code of their body and soul. God was no longer whispering from the shadows. The divine had taken up residence within their cells, and their bodies began to fail. Systems shut down. Mysterious illnesses emerged. Conditions doctors couldn't diagnose, pains that perfectly mirrored the curses they had once sent your way. Consider the downfall of Harvey Weinstein, whose empire collapsed not through external attack, but through the weight of truth rising from within. In the same way, chosen one, their own energetic crimes now manifest in their bodies. For some, food brings no comfort. For others, even standing becomes a battle. They watch themselves decay in real time, as though a cancer of consequence now ravages their being. Be not deceived. God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. Galatians 6:7. When the divine declares enough, even the body itself becomes a battleground. But the collapse did not stop with the body. Legal consequences followed, swift and precise, as though the universe were methodically checking off every offense. Every digital trace they left, every message they thought deleted, every secret act of spiritual sabotage, every obsessive move, now resurfaces with divine timing. God waits until pride peaks, until they believe they have escaped judgment, then flips the entire script. Consider Richard Nixon once more. Watergate's collapse came not from an external enemy, but from a trail he thought would never be discovered. And so, it is here. Surveillance footage appears out of nowhere. Digital receipts re-emerge. Unexpected witnesses step forward. Investigations bloom overnight. Suddenly, charges stick where before they might have slipped away. The web of lies they wove now binds them tighter by the day. This is a collapse no ritual, no apology can reverse. They tried to steal your energy. They tried to break your spirit. They sought to bend the divine to their will. And now, the universe returns every ounce, multiplied. Their homes are haunted now, not just metaphorically. The very spells they cast linger in their space like residue. Whispers fill the air. Shadows shift in every corner. Cold emptiness replaces what was once false warmth. The spiritual protection they once believed they controlled has been stripped away. Ancestors who once tolerated their games now actively dismantle their peace. What they mocked in you now marks them. And humiliation, follows them into every public space. Whoever digs a pit will fall into it. If someone rolls a stone, it will roll back on them. Proverbs 26:27. This is the law they forgot, and now it moves with unrelenting force. Chosen one, look now. The carefully curated image they once displayed is crumbling faster than even they can comprehend. The illusion of power, of influence, of control, all of it is disintegrating before the very eyes of an audience that no longer buys the performance. Have you noticed how truth has a way of rising, no matter how deeply it's buried? That is what is happening here. Relationships that once seemed unshakable are fracturing under the weight of hidden lies, now brought into the light. Jobs are vanishing. Finances are evaporating, and the social masks they wore with such ease are slipping so quickly they can no longer adjust fast enough to maintain the charade. Now, when they walk into rooms, they feel the heavy stares of people who know the truth. People who see beyond the surface, beyond the lies, into the festering darkness they once concealed so well. Can you imagine that, chosen one? The same rooms where they once held sway are now filled with silent judgments and thinly veiled scorn. Their illusion has no buyers left. Everything they once wished upon you, poverty, isolation, public humiliation, has now become their own new daily reality. But let us be clear, this is not mere karma at play. This is divine orchestration, justice on a level only the Creator himself can administer. The Lord works righteousness and justice for all the oppressed. Psalm 103:6. And this, chosen one, is not cruelty. It is necessity, a sacred rebalancing of scales they tried so arrogantly to tip. What they attempted was never minor. It wasn't harmless jealousy or a fleeting moment of envy. No, this was a calculated, willful attempt to rewrite destiny. They sought to curse the anointed. They tried to bury a divine soul under layers of deceit and call it spiritual work. But the soil they dug to hide you has now become their own resting place, sometimes figuratively, sometimes quite literally. Have you seen this happen before? Where those who scheme for another's fall end up falling deeper themselves. It is a spiritual law, and it never fails. Consider Bernie Madoff, who built an empire on illusion, only to die imprisoned by the very lies he once controlled. So too do the karmic couple now find themselves imprisoned, not by bars, but by the inescapable collapse of everything they built on lies. They thought they could break your confidence, silence your voice, erase your path. But every attack they launched only sharpened you. Does that resonate with your own journey, chosen one? What they meant to shatter you instead became the force that crowned you. Every betrayal, every malicious act clarified your vision and strengthened your spirit. Your glow didn't just return, it multiplied. They never understood that your story was never about mere survival. It was about ascension. He raises the poor from the dust and lifts the needy from the ash heap. He seats them with princes and has them inherit a throne of honor. 1 Samuel 2:8. While they spiraled in bitterness and curses, consumed by their own darkness, your love life began to heal. Your spiritual gifts expanded with new depth and power. God restored everything they tried to steal from you and multiplied it threefold. Have you noticed how even the things you thought lost forever have begun to return in ways you never imagined? You have become living prophecy in motion. They thought they could block your movement, but you transformed into a movement itself, unstoppable and divinely orchestrated. Consider the story of Oprah Winfrey, who faced unimaginable abuse and betrayal in her early life, yet rose to become one of the most powerful and transformative voices of her generation. The forces aligned against her could not stop what was divinely destined. Just as in her case, chosen one, no one can curse what the divine has already claimed. They underestimated how the divine truly works. They believed that silencing you would save them, would shield them from judgment. But in doing so, they exposed themselves even further. Have you noticed this pattern? That those who sought to erase you now find themselves more exposed with every passing day. Attempting to destroy what God has sent is always a suicide mission, and now every vibration of that truth reverberates through their lives. Every pain, every loss, every tremor of fear they feel is the direct result of the energy they once directed toward you. And you walked through their fire untouched, not merely surviving, but ascending to a realm they can no longer reach. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Psalm 23:5. They now watch in disbelief as you rise, your table overflowing in plain view of the world. What they believed would be your ending has become your crowning. Do you feel the power of that reversal? Now, every breath they take serves as a grim reminder of the living consequences they summoned, the new reality they created with their own hands. Look at Nelson Mandela, unjustly imprisoned for decades, only to emerge as a global symbol of justice and reconciliation. His captors sought to break him, but instead their actions forged a legacy far greater than their imaginations could fathom. Chosen one, your journey mirrors this same divine arc. They thought they had written your ending, but God has written your crowning. They failed to understand that you do not rise by your own strength alone. You rise on the currents of divine will, an unstoppable force they could never defeat. And so now I ask you, can you see the magnitude of your calling? Can you feel the weight of the prophecy you embody? The collapse of their empire is not your victory alone. It is a message to all who observe that divine justice is real, and no force of man or darkness can alter what heaven has decreed. Walk forward in this truth, chosen one. The chapter they tried to close is the very platform upon which your next chapter begins, written by the hand of the Most High. Chosen one, as we bring this powerful message to a close, take a deep breath. Let everything you've just heard settle into your spirit. You have walked through fire, through trials most would not survive. And here you are, still standing, still rising, still anointed. Do you see now how everything they tried to bury has become the foundation of your elevation? Do you feel how your spirit is no longer bound by the illusions they once cast? That is not an accident. That is divine design. Today, you've witnessed how the very ones who sought to curse you became trapped in their own devices, how their carefully constructed images have crumbled, and how your silent endurance has released waves of divine justice across realms they cannot even comprehend. You, chosen one, are the living proof that no weapon formed against you can prosper, that no ritual, no scheme, no lie can prevail against a soul sealed by God Himself. You are not simply protected, you are destined. As you step forward from this message, ask yourself this: what version of you is now ready to emerge? Are you ready to walk even bolder in the authority that this battle has forged within you? Are you prepared to stop apologizing for the light that unsettles darkness wherever you go? The time is here. You are not who you were when this fight began. You are the embodiment of divine prophecy fulfilled, and no one, not the karmic couple, not their practitioner, not the agents of spiritual opposition, can unwrite what heaven has already decreed over your life. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. Let these words echo in your soul. God's thoughts toward you have always been for peace, for hope, for a future that no force of darkness can intercept. Chosen one, you were never meant to merely survive. You were chosen to ascend. You were called not only to stand, but to shine in such a way that those who sought your downfall will have no choice but to witness your rising. And while they sit in the ruins of what they built, You will walk through doors no man can shut, crowned not by vengeance, but by divine favor. As we conclude today's message, I want to pause and say this from my heart. Thank you. Thank you to each and every one of you who has walked this spiritual journey with us. Whether you are new here or a long-standing member of this beautiful chosen community, your presence means more than words can convey. Each time you watch, comment, share, or simply listen in silence, you are part of a growing movement of light that is transforming this world, one soul at a time. And to those who have supported us through Super Thanks, thank you deeply. Your generosity helps this message continue to reach and empower chosen ones around the globe. Whether you choose to give or not, please know this: you are equally valued, equally loved, and deeply appreciated. Your presence here is a gift in itself, and your engagement is what breathes life into this mission. If you feel led to support through Super Thanks, it is received with humble gratitude. If you simply choose to watch and walk this journey with us, that is a blessing beyond measure. Now, before we part, I want to speak a final blessing over you. May the divine protection that has brought you through every storm continue to surround you. May your path be illuminated with clarity and strength. May your gifts expand, your voice rise, and your legacy be secured by the hand of the Most High. May you walk into every new season with boldness, knowing that heaven fights for you. May those who meant you harm witness your rising and see the undeniable evidence of God's favor upon your life. And as we close, let us pray together. Dear Father, I pray for the continued growth of my faith. Help me trust you, even when physical evidence is lacking. Let me believe in your eternal presence, knowing that you are always for me and never against me. I understand that your thoughts for me are thoughts of peace and abundance, not of harm, to give me a good and purposeful future. Thank you, gracious and eternal Father, for always hearing my voice. I offer this prayer to you in the name of Jesus. Amen. Thank you, Jesus, for your unfailing love, your provision, and your hand upon my life. I am forever grateful for your presence and the abundance you are releasing into my journey. If this message today resonated with you, if you felt your spirit stirred, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this message with someone you know who may need it. There are countless chosen ones still walking through their own storms. Your share might be the very lifeline they need today. We are honored to walk this path with you. Thank you again for staying with us until the very end of this message. Keep shining boldly. Keep moving forward with courage. Your story is not just one of survival. It is one of destiny, of divine triumph, and of unstoppable purpose. Until next time, beautiful souls, blessings, favor, and divine protection upon you all. May your next chapter be written in victory and light.